This is the Delhi station of Akashvani. Please stand by for our next broadcast. This is Akashvani. You will now listen to a radio report on the 31st Foundation Day function of the National Human Rights Commission of India held earlier today in the gracious presence of the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankar, at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. The National Human Rights Commission of India, NHRC, the embodiment of India's concern for the promotion and protection of human rights, celebrated its 31st Foundation Day in a special function held earlier today at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. The NHRC was established on the 12th of October in the year 1993. The statute under which it was established was the Protection of Human Rights Act 1993 as amended by the Protection of Human Rights Amendment Act 2006. The function was held in the gracious presence of the Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankar, Honorable Acting Chairperson NHRC, Srimati Vijaya Bharati Sayani, and Secretary General Shri Bharat Lal and other senior officers of the Commission. The Commission also organized a day-long national conference on the rights of older persons under the theme Assessing the Structural Framework, Legal Safeguards, Security Rights and Institutional Protection for India's Elderly. The welcome address on the function observing the Foundation Day of the National Human Rights Commission of India was delivered by Shri Bharat Lal, Secretary General, National Human Rights Commission.
This day is a reminder of our collective responsibility to protect the rights and freedoms inherent to every individual, regardless of their background, belief, or circumstances. As we all know, India is a land of diverse culture, languages, and traditions. We are a civilization that has thrived for centuries on the values of empathy and solidarity. The Indian ethos is built on the values of compassion and respect for all. We follow the footsteps of our freedom fighters and social reformers, who were among the first human rights defenders of the country. The Commission is committed to fostering an environment where justice prevails, where every voice is heard, and where every grievance is addressed. The Commission was set up to serve as a beacon of hope for those whose rights were denied. Our work is about fostering a culture of respect and dignity for all. In the last 1 year, more than 68,000 complaints have been received in the Commission, and almost 70,000 complaints of some previous years also have been disposed of. During this period, Commission has recommended roughly 17 crore rupees compensation, monetary relief to the victims and aggrieved or their next of kin. In the past 1 year, NHRC has issued some very important advisory, and especially I would like to mention protection for and rehabilitation of individuals engaged in begging, for the rights of the widows, and rights of children against child sexual abuse material. In fact, to highlight the challenges of vulnerable communities, we have organized a number of open house discussion, especially like rights of children of sex workers and children from marginalized communities, tribal education in India, protection of nomadic, semi-nomadic and denotified tribes, and rights of fishermen. The NHRC is the voice of voiceless. The Commission functions to ensure that poor and marginalized are not left behind. The Commission works closely with the government to ensure that no one is left behind. NHRC plays a vital role in promoting human rights discourse at various international forums. The Commission uses these forums to highlight the country's ethos of viewing the whole world as one family, in the lines of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and emphasizing the values of empathy and compassion. On this special day, let us not only celebrate the NHRC's history and successes, but also look forward into the future with hope and determination. With these words, I once again welcome all the esteemed dignitaries and guests. Our special gratitude to Honorable Vice President of India for gracing this occasion, and we look forward to his work. Thank you all very much.
In her address, the Honorable Acting Chairperson of NHRC, Srimati Vijaya Bharati Sayani, said,
As we gather to celebrate this significant milestone, we stand united in our shared commitment to the ideals of human dignity and justice for all. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya, sarve badrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. May all be happy. May all be free from all illness. May all see what is auspicious. May no one suffer. India's human rights journey has been shaped by reformers like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who enshrined fundamental rights in the Constitution, and Mahatma Gandhi, who promoted non-violence and civil liberties. The National Human Rights Commission plays a crucial role in safeguarding fundamental rights by investigating human rights violations and holding public servants accountable. It acts both suo motu and in response to citizens' petitions. Throughout its history, the National Human Rights Commission has addressed landmark cases and made significant recommendations to uphold human rights in India. The NHRC addresses a broad spectrum of human rights violations, including custodial deaths, bonded labor, exploitation of marginalized groups, and denial of medical care. In cases of custodial violence, the Commission has highlighted systemic law enforcement issues, advocating for essential police reforms. Additionally, the NHRC has taken important steps to advocate for the rights of marginalized communities, including transgender individuals. The NHRC conducted independent inquiries alongside addressing complaints, investigating human rights violations in 30 cases over the past year. It also undertakes spot visits to facilities such as prisons, schools, hostels, and health centers. Since its establishment in 1993-94, when only received 496 complaints, from October 2023 to September 2024, the Commission registered an astounding 68,000 complaints and disposed all the cases, showcasing its commitment to justice. The NHRC has formed several core groups to take critical issues like health and mental health, business and human rights, right to food, and LGBTQ plus rights. These groups include experts, academics, and NGO representatives, facilitating a collaborative approach to human rights advancement. Training for trainers and capacity building programs are being implemented for field officers, police, and paramilitary forces to raise awareness about human rights. The National Human Rights Commission has recently issued several advisories to protect vulnerable populations, including impoverished, uneducated children, women, and differently abled individuals engaged in begging. On September 9, 2024, we hosted the National Symposium on Women's Safety at Work and in Public Spaces, uniting key stakeholders to address the challenges faced by women. Additionally, the NHRC has engaged in open house discussions and core group meetings focused on pressing issues like the rights of fishermen and tribal education. The National Human Rights Commission envisions a society where the dignity and rights of every individual are respected, promoting inclusivity and understanding. The wisdom of the Maha Upanishad, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, highlights our interconnectedness and shared responsibilities. In the words of Kalidasa, when called to duty, we must act without hesitation. This sentiment is beautifully captured in Sanskrit sloka, Yato dharmas tato jayaha. Where there is righteousness, their victory is assured. Together, let us commit to working harmoniously towards a future where every person can thrive with dignity. Thank you. Jai Hind and Jai Bharat.
The Honorable Vice President of India, Shri Jagdeep Dhankad, was the chief guest at this special function held at Vigyan Bhavan, New Delhi. Let's listen to his address.
I am happy to be here to mark the 31st Foundation Day of the National Human Rights Commission of India. Today we are not only commemorating an institution, but the fundamental values that are integral to this institution, integral to the Constitution of India, and more importantly, integral to our society and culture. This year, the World Human Rights Day theme is equality, reducing inequalities, and advancing human rights. Equality has to be understood as it is beyond definition as such. However, indisputably, at the core of equality is that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and in rights. Religion, race, color, sex, status, or other facets are merely superficial. Discrimination in any form is challenging to core aspects of human rights. Human rights are best secured and nurtured with public response. There can be no greater custodian of human rights than the public at large. We need to stand firm when such violations occur. To respect others' human rights is to respect one's own human rights. To respect others' human rights is a divine duty. These rights are inviolable. Preamble of our Constitution, seeking justice, liberty, equality to all citizens, is a sense of human rights. There is need to have fraternal feelings with respect, and for persons who have a different point of view, the other point of view, different perceptions and views. Human rights, friends, can be defined broadly in two ways. First is a narrow one, legal way of defining human rights. Drop of a hat, we jump to it. Make a very small isolated instance as systemic. That's a legal way. The notion grants certain rights to individuals by their inherent being. No law is needed. We are born with human rights. We are born with basic rights. They are inalienable to humanity, inalienable to the individual. And therefore, according to me, in all humility, we must see human rights from this prism. That is our way. That is Indian way. That is the way we have lived through over 5,000 years. No country in the world can lay such a claim. When we go into evolution of these rights, they primarily started to begin with political rights, including the right to life and liberty. There was gradual accretion of other rights. Judiciary in this country has added many dimensions to these rights. But there is another way, and that is the civilizational way of thinking about human rights. That is organicist way. It looks human beings as part of organic whole, including the society, prakriti, nature. And the system as a whole has to live in peace. It is encapsulated. Sarvam Shanti. We have dictated our lives over centuries in spite of various difficulties by this dictum. For us, as a nation, nurturing of human rights is a way of life. The civilizational way of thinking of rights did not evolve from political rights or economic rights and then adding other rights, such as freedom of conscience. The basic, the pristine, the organic, the original can be looked into our Vedas. And our functioning over the ages, this defined Sukh for all, well-being of all, happiness for all. This defined, we come to the planet as trustees, not as exploiters. We live not for us, but for all. We know for sure we can be happy only with everyone being happy. In as much as we have in togetherness to save this planet, because this existential challenge is not to an individual. It is beyond any element of race, caste, creed, color, or geographical boundaries. Similar is the situation with respect to human rights. Sarva Sukhina Bhavantu, the chairman focused it. This is motto of NHRC. What a grandiose motto. A motto emanating from our civilizational ethos, emanating from what we have lived through. We have all through the history exemplified it, and in the face of very daunting circumstances, some of which were ruthless, reckless, trampling our civilization. Yet the nation stood firm. That's what India is, that's what Bharat is. Our scriptures were and are our charters. They are repository of knowledge and wisdom. They are repository of human way of life. One will have to strive for years to come to add to them. That is ultimate when it comes to knowledge. And these scriptures were loud, everyday proclamation of these rights that society and civilization granted. Our civilization created institutions to ensure that these rights were honored. In any governance in this country at any point of time, those who governed had to listen to the voice of senior people, our sages, our seers. They were the real controllers of morality, propriety, and all that constitutes welfare of humanity at large. Our temples ran open kitchens so that there was freedom from hunger. Education was free, so there was right to education. Friends, if you look at the Indian Constitution, it has 22 paintings. The first one is Gurukul. It defines our society, is concerned that everyone would have access to education. You gave dakshina according to your ability, but there was no tuition fee. Guru dakshina. If you got education, you can reward your teacher, you can honor your teacher. But it did not have compulsion element. It had optional element. It had to emanate not from your fiduciary strength, but from call of your soul. That was sublimity we practiced and are on way to it. Everyone was allowed to practice their faith. Look at our country. Who came? They came. They were received. They were absorbed. They were in oneness. They felt at home in this country in the same manner as they felt at home at other countries. A country which they had to live under circumstances which are indescribable. That was the scenario, friends. So on and so forth, I can keep on going, but the list is endless. In a way, human rights are very much part of our moral fabric, our way of life. And why only just past? Our contemporaneous governance, look at it. It underlines this very philosophy in several ways. Policies are driven by the idea of human rights. When COVID hit us and hit the world, it was a non-discriminatory challenge to the entire planet. High and mighty and great nations suffered. In that scenario, the government ensured in this country that no one sleeps hungry, regardless of access to their means of livelihood. Free grains were given, friends, to 850 million people, empowering them to face the challenge. What started on 1st April 2020 continues till this date. And I wonder, is still in the world people talk of hunger crisis in this country? I am appalled. 850 million people are getting support of free ration in this country. And that is irrespective of their color, caste, creed, religion, geographical location, or other aspects. All I can say is those who think about India's hunger situation need to reflect and get into repentance mode. So much attention has been bestowed on human rights in this country that what was unthinkable is now a ground reality. Every country in the world should measure human rights on a yardstick of well-being of their country's body politic, overall economy. In last decade, India's economic growth, which is exponential, incremental, now unstoppable, is not pyramidical, it is plateau. Everyone is getting the benefit who is in the last row. Affordable housing, gas connection, tap water, internet connectivity, road connectivity. And this is non-discriminatory progress. Never in this country a developmental project has been dictated by circumstances that are not sublime, serving the ultimate cause of human rights. A country where even for a single person to exercise his right to vote, arrangements have been made. Steps have been taken by the government to ensure that those who are in hilly areas or difficult, challenged areas, they get electricity in their house. Such is the track record and concern for human rights. Friends, look around the world, look around the globe. You'll find Bharat way ahead of other nations when it comes to preservation of human rights, particularly minorities, marginalized and vulnerable sections of society. Tell me which country in the world treats its minorities the way Bharat does? We have seen condition of minorities in several nations. Geographically, several nations' names have been totally eradicated when it comes to their demographic composition. Surprisingly, the small segment left behind had to seek refuge in this country. Human rights cannot and should not be used as a tool of foreign policy to exert power and influence over others. Naming and shaming the wrong is a degraded form of diplomacy. You have to preach only what you practice. People-centric governance is our mantra, is our philosophy. Last mile delivery, welfare of the weakest. You see our civil services, you will be amazed, particularly the people outside the country who get into there, the marginalized. I was so happy to find that the father was a painter in a police station and the girl came there as superintendent of police. And these instances are not isolated, they are many. My mother was not educated formally, my father did not go beyond class 5. I am before you. This defines the great change on human rights this country has. Friends, when you ignore these developments and artificial issues are imputed to portray Bharat in bad light, I can only lament the intellect of those, that this planet is bearing those people with great heaviness who are distanced from rational approach. Every citizen in this country has to be watchdog of human rights because those trying to challenge are inspired by ill motivations to destabilize this country. They find our growth indigestible. They are not acting as per their soul or mind. They are being financially manipulated. Much of it has been contained. It shall not be allowed to happen in this country. We are a nation. To us belongs this century. And we will be a developed nation by 2047, making our people in every respect enjoy human rights. Domestically, we should be wary of elements that use human rights to advance their political agenda. I am addressing the community of politicians. Citizen Amendment Act. How can this be an issue? The act does not deprive any citizen of this country of his or her citizenship. The act does not handicap any person on the globe to take recourse to taking citizen of this country. The act is an affirmative step to give citizenship to those who are being hunted, persecuted. And this is not limited to one religion, many religions. Even such a soothing aspect is sought to be challenged. Well, we have a situation, deep state takes shape only in this way, and therefore nip it ruthlessly in the bud when it is seen. Look at the prime example I indicated. There couldn't be a better gesture of social magnanimity collectively expressed by an act of parliament than CAA. Stateless refugees who are to flee from Bharat under severe repression for committing the sin of choosing to follow their conscience from our neighborhood. They had option to be here. They committed sin of conscience, went. They were suffering day in and day out. And this is being opposed. This balm, this soothing medicine is being opposed on the plank of human rights. How sharper than serpent's tooth could it be? Friends, this duality exposes a sinister political agenda that includes another aspect which is germane to human rights blossoming and flourishing, and that is demographic balance in this country. History is testimony that nations have completely lost their identity by not addressing this issue. It has, as a matter of fact, global repercussions from the perspective of human rights. The tremors are being felt nearly all over, more in countries that espouse this menace. They are getting the heat of it. The demographic climate change in the world, and particularly in the nation, is an issue that calls for urgent systemic addressing. I emphasize, friends, demographic climate change is a challenge that is required to be addressed. If the world has to live in peace and harmony, nations have to believe in their nationalism and preserve their identity. I have no doubt you will appreciate and be one with me. It is already taking shape of an existential challenge. Let's diffuse this, thereby sublimely serving human rights. Another aspect, human rights should not be sealed for those who take law into their own hands, who challenge law, who use firearms, who create terror. When you deal them in accordance with law, they have easy friends on the point of human rights. पुलिस ने कहाँ गोली मारी, कैसे मारी, ये नहीं देखते किसको मारी, किस हालात में मारी, क्यों मारी. The society can't be held to as a hostage or captive to these violators of law. Law enforcing agencies have to courageously play on the front foot to deal with these rogue elements who are not only loose cannons to society, but a severe threat to human rights. Fortunately, this is being done in this country effectively. Violators of law threatening attitude, challenging law and order, there can be no more worse enemies of human rights than these sections. But painfully, what a travesty. These rogue elements of society, these violators of law, who are threat to the society at large, are afforded cover by human rights plank institutions. On this occasion, I want to leave you with two ideas, friends. First, if you are a practitioner of law, some of you are, I have been one myself for decades, fight for the rights and dignity of the weaker sections of the society. Also fight against those who seemingly seek to fight for them, but are fighting for someone else. Expose those. Never let anyone appropriate the discourse and guaranteed rights for sinister political designs. This is happening. I want to look only through political prism, what gain it is for me, and then I moderate my response. Please don't do it when it comes to nationalism, when it comes to nation, when it comes to development, when it comes to human rights. Play your politics, be partisan, but on these issues, please be bipartisan. Second, if you have legal education or are interested in research, take time to focus on those who seek to teach us and are ignorant, who seek to teach us not the subject, but indoctrination. Overcome them, expose them. Pick up any part of the globe and you will find they have to take many lessons from Bharat that has nurtured human rights since ages. Friends, as we celebrate the establishment of NHRC, let us renew our commitment to the idea of human rights, the rights of our fellow citizens, the ideas inherent to us for generations and centuries, praying for the good of all. Always remember, I conclude,